Hey guys, it's Miss Lewis. I hope you are all well. We are going to be continuing on our new chapter. This is section 2, and we're going to be talking about probability and Punnett squares, genotypes, phenotypes, and things like that. It should be review. We're going to get a little bit more in depth, like I said last time. So probability, you guys should know what that is, just from being alive. You should know what probability means. But it's basically the likelihood that a particular event will occur. Now, we deal with it in math, we deal with it in everyday life. I know you guys are too young, but gambling, going to a casino, it's all based on probability. Our raffles at school, it's all probability. So, probability does have a place in biology when there is reproduction happening and the parents are passing traits down to their offspring. So the principles of probability can be used to predict the outcome of genetic crosses. Genetic crosses between two parents. You could actually predict the likelihood of the offspring having particular traits. So for example, this isn't a biological example, but it's a very, very simple example. What is the probability of a coin landing on heads? Now, you need to know what a coin is. You need to know that there are two sides to a coin, heads and tails, and the probability of a coin landing on heads is 50% because there are only two sides to it. The probability of a coin landing on heads 3 times in a row, however, is a lot more not great. I couldn't think of the word. Lower. Sorry. Lower probability of a coin landing on heads 3 times in a row, just because there are more chances for it to land on tails. So these are Punnett squares. These should look familiar to you. And Punnett squares are used to predict the traits of offspring between two parents. They predict results that may occur. Now, are these foolproof? No. But the probability of, for example, this person, this father has a dominant and a recessive, and this mother has a dominant and recessive, and when it kind of is sorted out in the Punnett square, you'll see that there is a larger probability of the offspring having that dominant trait, whatever it may be. Let's just say it's brown hair. So, like we talked about, if it has a capital letter in the genotype, it has to be dominant. This is the only scenario, 1 out of 4, where you would yield a recessive phenotype, recessive trait. So if you don't know how to do a Punnett square, let me know and we could work it out together. But basically, you just take the father and you put its 2 alleles up here, and the mother goes down here, and you kind of cross them. So you bring the B, the large B from father, down to these 2. You bring the little b from the father down to these 2, and then the mother goes across, and they end up with these 4 pairs here. And these are called genotypes, which we're going to talk about in the next slide. So homozygous and heterozygous, those are 2 words that might sound complicated, but they're really not, because homo means the same and hetero means different. So homozygous means having 2 of the same alleles for a particular trait. So for example, you could have 2 capital B's or 2 lowercase b's. They're the same exact allele. So the dominant would be capital B, and a recessive would be little b, little b. So let's say for brown hair, this would be brown hair and this would be blonde hair. Heterozygous means having 2 different alleles for the same trait. So they have to be different. They're not the same, they're different. So it would be a capital B and a lowercase b. That's the only combination. You do not put the small b in front of the capital B. We use, grammatical grammar in order to write the genotypes. So you're going to put the first big B first, and then you're going to put the little b after. So here's a little diagram down here. You can see that the large capital letter is dominant, the little lowercase letter is recessive, and this is a heterozygous genotype because it's a capital B and a lowercase b, two different things. And the homozygous genotype are the exact same identical allele. This is just another graphic showing you pretty much the same thing in a different way. So we have these possible pairings of chromosomes here. We have two homozygous on the two sides because they're both yellow and these are both green. So they are homozygous, they're the same. And then we have the heterozygous in the middle with the yellow and the green. Now, if the yellow is dominant, as long as something is yellow in this pairing, it is going to be dominant. So we have two yellows, means it's going to be dominant. We have a yellow and a green, means it's going to be dominant. We have two greens, that means it will be recessive and it will have the green seeds. So here are the phenotypes and genotypes, what I've been talking about, those two words that I've been mentioning a lot. So a phenotype is a physical characteristic that we could actually see by looking at something or examining something. So I like to remember it kind of because phenotype begins with a PH and so does physical. So when you think of a physical characteristic, you think of things that you could observe, like hair color, skin color, height, weight, things like that, or blood type even. You could, you don't have to necessarily even see it. But phenotypes are physical characteristics. So for example, a phenotype of a person could be brown hair, could be blue eyes, could be a purple flower on a plant. Other phenotypes could be a tall height, short height, big feet, um, just curly hair, straight hair, anything that you could observe. A genotype is the actual genetic makeup. So you cannot see this just by looking at a person. You cannot see their genotype. That is your B, capital B, lowercase b, your two capital A's, your two lowercase p's, your F and your F, the actual like two letters that go together, the two alleles. So that is your genotype. Now, these two things are related because your genotype is like an internal genetic makeup, and that manifests in your phenotype. So let's say you have this right here, your capital B and lowercase b, and this is for brown hair. This would be your genotype, and your phenotype would be brown hair. So they do go together. They're just two kind of sides to the same coin, if you will. Okay, principle of independent assortment. So we kind of talked a little bit about this when we were talking about segregation last section, but basically genes for different traits segregate independently during the formation of gametes, which are sex cells. The seed color allele and the seed shape allele, they segregate independently. They're not together. There are exceptions. There are some exceptions to these rules of dominant and recessive. Some alleles are neither dominant nor recessive. So we're going to actually talk about how that could happen. So one exception is incomplete dominance. Incomplete dominance. So one allele is not completely dominant over the other. Think of two boxers in a boxing ring, and one jabs the other one in the face, and the other one hits the other one back, and they're just kind of fighting each other, and one of them doesn't win overtly. So it's kind of the same thing here. They're kind of both fighting for the spotlight, and in turn, you get a third phenotype. So here we have a red flower and we have a white flower. And typically, the red will usually beat out the white just because it's like a brighter color. But we have a red parent and a white parent. And when they reproduce, you could, according to incomplete dominance, get pink flowers. You're not you might not just get red flowers, and you might not just get white flowers. You could possibly get pink flowers. Why isn't this thing going away? Go away. Hold on. All right, there we go. So a human example could be a mother with brown eyes and a father with green eyes. Their offspring could have incomplete dominance. The brown eyes might not be dominant in this case, and you could have hazel-eyed offspring, kind of a mix between brown and green. This is similar, but it's not the same, so please don't get confused between incomplete dominance and codominance. Codominance is something where both alleles contribute to the phenotype of the organism, but they do not mix together. Think of it kind of like this. Think of incomplete dominance as a bunch of ingredients going in to make a batter for a cake. Okay? You have the flour, you have the sugar, you have the, I don't know what goes into a cake, butter, milk, all of those things, and you mix it up into a very cohesive mixture. Okay? Very kind of dissolved in there. Codominance would be kind of like making a fruit salad or something like that, or a regular salad. You're throwing a bunch of things in, but they maintain their integrity, which means that the the piece of pineapple is still going to look like a piece of pineapple, and the grape is still going to look like a grape. They're not going to turn into a pineapple grape. They're not going to mix together. They're going to be their own thing, but they're just going to be in one bowl. So think of it like this. Codominance, you have a red flower parent and a white flower parent, and they breed together. Then you could get a flower with some white petals and some pink petals, or kind of like polka dots or splotches. Not pink, red, sorry. So the flower isn't going to be pink all over. It's going to be red in some areas and white in some areas. So the colors are not mixing like you would mix in a paint palette. They're just simply both on the same flower. Okay, multiple alleles. So there are some genes that have more than two alleles, kind of like blood types. So you could have a blood type A, you could have a blood type B, you could have blood type AB, O, positive, negative. So when we're talking about eye color, it's kind of like simplified between brown and blue, but in reality, there are more eye colors than just brown and blue. So they would have multiple different alleles: brown, blue, green. My cat just jumped on me. Ow. Hazel, gray, things like that. Polygenic traits are traits that are controlled by two or more genes. So for some traits that we have, like skin color, like height, um, more than one gene goes into kind of giving you that trait. So, for example, you could have 3 different genes that determine your height. Okay, so not every single trait is just one gene. And here's a good example. So you have the striped shirt, and then you have the horizontally striped shirt and the vertically striped shirt. And then you have the little baby down here with a checkered shirt with both horizontal and vertical stripes. So I would call this, I suppose, codominance. Or, actually, no, it would be incomplete dominance because it would be a mixture of the two. What do you guys think? I mean, this is a silly example, but you tell me what you guys think, right? So that is it for today. Like I said, if you have trouble with the Punnett squares, please let me know because we're going to be working on Punnett squares for a couple days. We're definitely going to be doing an assignment today where you're going to have to create your own Punnett square. And then
Next week, we are going to be doing a virtual lab on Punnett squares. So if you are having trouble, if you're not understanding what this is or what this means, please email me. I will also be available for virtual office hours today. I have a couple meetings. I'm not sure when I'll be able to get on, but I will make sure that I let you guys know beforehand. Okay, have a good one. Bye.